Hi, how is everyone doing? So, I'm very excited because this is the first video on the channel, and I was kind of wondering on what topic should I make a video on. So, I've been thinking about on what topic should I make a video on. Then I just realized why not make a video about how to understand yourself or just on the topic of understanding yourself. So, yeah, I just thought I would make a video on it. So, in regards to understanding your own self, one thing that has really helped me throughout this journey is how would you try to understand a person you deeply care about? How would you show love to them? And how would you show up for them when they need someone that who could understand them, someone who could stand by them? I kind of asked myself that how would I show up for someone that I genuinely care about, and how would I make them feel seen, heard, and understood. Now, the reason for asking this question to my own self was because a lot of the times it happens with me. Like, I have observed this. The way I show care for others is the way that I want to be cared for. So, a lot of the times it just kind of reflects back, because if I'm there for someone, then a lot of the times I have thought that it would be so amazing if someone is there for me like this. So I think the first step really is to divert that energy within. So that could be a very good question actually to ask yourself. Like, either how do you care for others, that could be, or even if someone if someone is getting to know you, for example, and they ask you that, in this imagination, like, imagine you are in a scenario where you just want to feel the most care for, you just want to feel understood, then how would you imagine the other person to react, or what would you want the other person to do in that scenario? So I think one of these two questions, or even both of these questions, can be really helpful. So starting with that could really be good, because it kind of will make you feel and have this connection with your own. Of course, you can do that. uh, Three things have really helped me personally, like in the daily life, and you have to be like really aware, because it's very easy to fall back into the same patterns. So the number one thing that has really helped me is kind of observing myself more, because I just realized that there are a lot of things, a lot of behaviors, and a lot of thought patterns that you have, and they are kind of built over time, over some beliefs that might not be your own. For example, if in school people used to tell you that you are so boring, so you might have made a belief it about your own self that, oh, I am boring, which might not be the truth, because it could be just you never got that space to be your own self. Yeah, so it's just there are a lot of beliefs about your own self, or a lot of behaviors. Even, like, I just realized a lot of my behaviors kind of mirror my family's behavior, and so there are a lot of things that I have catched from them, but it's just the way you work, so you don't realize it, but just observing your own self can help so much. Also, one thing before that, switching roles can really help. So one thing that really helps me is just considering my own self either as like a kid, or a kid that I really care about, or even a romantic partner, or just a very close friend who really cares about me. Basically, someone who really cares about me and really loves me genuinely. So I'll give you an example. So for example, you have a kid in your family, and you deeply care about that child, and one day when you are trying to talk with him or her, then he or she is telling you that, I don't want to learn how to ride a bicycle. Then of course you know that riding a bicycle can be a very important skill, and it can help the kid and make his or her life easier. But when you ask the kid why, you just realize that the kid is being very rigid about not learning the bicycle, which is a new skill. So I just give an example. You can do this with your own self, like consider yourself as that kid, or even you can switch roles. Like, it really depends on the situation. So in this, the challenge was a rigid thought pattern, so I kind of took the example of a kid because that's what makes more sense to me. So the first step, as we discussed, is to observe. So in this case, you observe that there is a rigid pattern that is been following here. So in real life, it could be like if you are really bad with new situations or trying new things out of your comfort zone, then it is kind of the similar thing, because in this example for this kid, learning how to ride a bicycle is a new skill which is uncomfortable, which could indeed benefit him. So it's the same with learning new things in life. If you are very uncomfortable getting out of your comfort zone, which of course is very obvious that you'll get uncomfortable, but I have seen some people are really good at adjusting to new environments and trying new things that could benefit them. They are very flexible, while some people can be very rigid. So the people who are rigid, like there is something going on there, that every person is different. But yeah, so step one would be just observing. Now step two would be compassion. Now just imagine how would you deal with that kid and compare it with how would you deal with your own self. So that's when the thing comes up, like when I would deal with that kid in my family, I would never use any kind of harsh words, and I won't start yelling at it or at him or her, or I won't start just demeaning him or her. Instead, I would have compassion and I would just try to understand and be curious. So these are kind of the next two steps, which are like, step number two is compassion. But I just realized if this was the same scenario with me, then I would automatically kind of hate myself for it, like, and say things to myself that why can't you just try new things? Why is it so hard for you? Actually, that is where the whole understanding comes forward, like why? Because step number three is curiosity. So we are gonna replace the tone of it, like if you ask yourself why can't you do this in a very bad tone, and because we do that with our own selves, but would you do that with someone you care about? No, definitely not. So just kind of replace that harsh tone and being self-critical with compassion. So the third step is curiosity. So I'll ask that kid, just tell me, why don't you want to learn how to ride a bicycle? What's the issue? Then maybe the kid will say that I'm afraid that I'll get hurt, or I'm afraid going on the road with a lot of vehicles on. So then you kind of try to understand the kid, but after that maybe you'll just assure him or her that I will be there for you as an adult, and I will be there for you. I'll help you in learning this skill until you feel comfortable going on your own. Or I would try to explain the kid that how can riding a bicycle can make your life easier. So this solution basically, which is the fourth thing. So I think if you do that with your own self, it can be really helpful, because for me it has been really helpful, and especially the second part where you just replace that criticism for compassion, because I feel a lot of the times we just kind of hate ourselves for being a certain way and we dislike ourselves for it. But what we don't understand is there is a lot going on beneath that. There are a lot of things that are going on, and once we try to just remove that judgment or criticism and just try to truly understand, and isn't this what understanding is like? Replacing all that judgment, all that criticism, label not labeling someone as something if they are showing a certain behavior, and just maybe trying to understand them. Isn't that the care that everyone deserves? So yeah, these four things kind of have helped me a lot, like observing yourself, then compassion, then kind of curiosity, and then solution, basically like baby steps. How can you help yourself in this situation? So for example, if we take the example of the rigid habit in this case, so maybe you can try to understand what all goes within in that curiosity part. Maybe you can try to understand what are you afraid of if you will do that, what are your inhibitions, and a lot of other things. And maybe then you can feel a little bit better, because the more in this process what you are also doing is kind of that feeling of discomfort. So you are not only hating yourself, but you are also kind of resisting that uncomfortable feeling. So once maybe if you can acknowledge it, it can become a lot easier. So these are some things that I think can be helpful. Yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.